game, but as far as the playoffs go, it'd be hard to label this game as an important game simply because Dothan and Lanier are pretty much out of it as far as one-loss records are concerned. Dothan and Lanier have lost one game, and there are a lot of ifs involved if either of them are to go to the playoffs. Enterprise, on the other hand, is the top team. They're undefeated in region play, and it looks as though at this time they're the team that will go at the end of the season. Dothan is a much improved football team since the last time they played at Crampton Bowl against Jeff Davis. Coach, I guess you feel a little bit better about bringing your team up here.
Well, I did before the game was over with last week. We lost our key running back. He was really, our problem in the past has been speed, and he was the only one that was giving us any outside speed and give us a threat to do something and where we could open our game up. But injury prone, I guess that's what we are. If we had 50 games, I don't guess we'd have anybody else to play with. But we're coming in, I think, a lot like Coach Little. I was talking to him earlier that they've got some major injuries, too, along like we do.
Coach Creel, has your defense been the thing that has brought you this record so far?
They have been real strong in points and then weak in other points. And we've lost two key people there. And so if we haven't had some real good lucks on some fumbles and some key interceptions and been able to get the ball in early, we'd have probably been in trouble.
Coach Cliff Little of Lanier was quoted today as saying Dothan coming to town is like bad news coming, and I guess Cliff Little, that's a little bit worse since your running backs are out. What is the status of Eric Rollins and Joe Moss at this time?
Well, I think, Lee, we beat them up quite a bit last week. We also found out this morning that we lost a starting defensive tackle, Pat Thetford, which had hurt us quite a bit. Joe and Eric will see limited action. Neither one are at full speed, but we're going to get them in some, of course.
How much do you think they will be able to play enough to make a difference for you, think?
I doubt it, Lee, just truthfully. Both of them are pretty banged up, and they just can't go full speed.
Well, again, we have a nice evening to play football. It's kind of cold, to tell you the truth, but it's clear, and really no wind is going to be a factor tonight. With a live report from Crampton Bowl, this is Lee Webb, WSFA TV Sports. Battle tonight, on my left is Coach Davis Brock of Carver High School, and on my right, Levon Kelly of Carroll High in Ozark. Coach Kelly, I guess this has been sort of a disappointing first season for you down in Ozark.
Well, it sure has, Lee. Of course, our kids have come a long ways. We've had a lot of injuries since the first of the year, but we're really looking forward to next year. We don't have too much to look forward to the rest of this year. The only thing we can hope for is maybe slipping up and upsetting somebody that maybe will help us toward the next football season.
Well, are you encouraged toward next year?
Oh yeah, we sure are, Lee. We're working real hard, and we have about 44 sophomores out for football, and we have a full JV schedule, and we're looking forward to the future. We're going to have a good football team in a couple of years.
What impresses you most about Carver High School?
Well, everything, really, Lee. Carver has as good a football team as anybody in the region. As you well know, we have about 4 teams in our region that I think is as good as anybody in the state. And, of course, Carver lost 2 region games, but really they could have won both of them. And it's just a tough break for Coach Brock and his Wolverines because I think they have as fine a football teams as the rest of them.
Really not much is riding on the game as far as the playoffs are concerned because Ozark has already lost 3 region games. They're 1-3 in region play, while Carver, on the other hand, is 2-2. Coach Brock, because you are pretty much out of the playoff contention, I understand that you've made some changes, putting in two offensive units in tonight. Why is that?
Well, it wasn't so much because we're out of the region picture. Just after the loss last week, the kids were down, and we needed to do something to get a little bit of enthusiasm, and so we got a little competition going between them, between our seniors and our younger folks that will be coming back, and see who wanted to play the most, who wanted to score, who wanted to play the best defense, and we needed to do something to keep the enthusiasm up.
Now, you've got some sophomores on what you call the green unit. Is that right? How do you expect this to come out tonight? You think the sophomores will outscore the other unit?
Well, I tell you what, they have a lot of enthusiasm, and enthusiasm makes up for a lot of mistakes.
Phil Snow's back at our studios, and I believe he has a question for you.
Well, how many are there in the nation? I've had inquiries from UCLA on the West Coast to Notre Dame up north, and Pittsburgh all the way to the East Coast. Anybody, all of them would love to have him. He's got tremendous potential. He is a young kid. He's a little bit mentally immature, but he's just been 16 years old. He's going to grow a little bit more, and as he matures, he's going to be one heck of a college ball player.
Of course, they're referring to Byron Braggs, Carver's big defensive tackle. Coach, what is his size right now?
He's 6'7" and 270.
So
Like we all.
coaches, thank you.
The food program today is moving fairly slow in some areas, moderately. The weather doesn't seem to be a factor. We don't seem to know at this time what's keeping the people from coming out to get their shots. We're hoping that people will start to come out because we have plenty of facilities and there's plenty of room for everyone.
In this third day of the civil suit against the Montgomery Police Department, Mayor Jim Robinson was dropped as a defendant in the case after a directed verdict by federal judge Robert Varner. The plaintiffs, the Whitehurst family, had said that Mayor Robinson had been negligent in allowing Donald Foster to remain on the police force. Foster is a police patrolman who shot and killed Bernard Whitehurst on December 2nd, 1975. However, the defendants who were allowed to remain in the case were Police Chief Charles Swindle, the Public Safety Director Ed Wright, and Patrolman Donald Foster. The defense called 12 witnesses, and the plaintiffs called 19 witnesses. Foster is charged with wrongfully killing Whitehurst on December 2nd, and Judge Varner has said that the jury will be allowed to go back to their motel where they have been sequestered for the last 3 nights, and the trial will begin again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Most of the testimony in this 3-day trial has been the same as has been heard before in the perjury case against Detective Thomas Littaker. The same witnesses, most of them, have been inside the federal courthouse here, and more are expected to take the stand tomorrow morning, and then the state and the plaintiffs will make their final arguments. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the federal courthouse.
The attendance problem at Crampton Bowl is nothing new. It developed several years ago when Jeff Davis and Carver high schools began using it as their home stadium. Since more teams are using the bowl, more games have had to be scheduled on Thursday nights. That, plus the fact that many people don't like the location and condition of the bowl, has turned the problem into a crisis. Like many schools, Carver, Jeff Davis, Lanier, and Lee are dependent upon gate receipts to support not only their football teams, but their entire athletic programs. A look at the cost of athletic equipment quickly shows that's no easy task. Jeff Davis, able to draw fairly large crowds during their undefeated 1975 season, was able to show a small profit, but the other 3 schools were not so lucky. Mr. Carter, at this current pace, how long will you be able to continue without attendance affecting the total athletic program at Lee?
Lee, I would anticipate that within the next couple of years, the fact that we've had a decline in attendance at our football games would begin to affect other programs. This is because our football revenues primarily support all other aspects of our sports programs, including our girls' sports program. So I would say a couple of years at the most.
The bond issue, which funded Crampton Bowl's latest edition, expires in 1977. That means the stadium will be paid for, and more than likely Montgomery's Parks and Recreation Department will take over its operation. It also means that rental costs will likely drop and ease the heavy financial burden of the 4 schools' athletic departments. From Crampton Bowl, this is Lee Webb, WSFA TV Sports.
What is now being called the modern civil rights movement started in this city in 1955. There were demonstrations calling for equality. Included in that was voting equality. Now, black leaders are worried that some of their numbers will not go to the polls and vote on November 2nd. Officials of the Atlanta-based Voter Education Project say many Southern blacks have become dissatisfied with the system and may not vote November 2nd. A study just released by the project says the problem is acute among younger blacks between the ages of 18 and 30. The report also shows a 5 to 10% decrease in voter turnout from that group since 1968.
I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Could you tell us why?
Why? Because, well, it was against my religion, for one thing. And, well, I believe that whoever get the chance to be president, they're not going to do anything better, not going to better the world.
The reason I may not vote is because, you know, like really I don't understand what's going on. You know, like both of the men is rich, and so like I don't feel like by me voting for them it's going to help the poor people or the ladies with the kids without fathers.
No matter who is in the office of the president, that it won't do you any good. Is that why you're not going to vote?
That's right.
Could you tell me how you arrived at this particular opinion?
Well, it's just opinion. I just say I ride to, you know, like, so I just ain't got no confidence in either one of them. That's it.
Do you plan to vote Tuesday?
Yes, I plan to vote Tuesday.
Do you plan to vote Tuesday?
No, I don't.
Could you tell us why?
I think they kind of get who they want anyhow, and I don't think there's no need to vote.
Do you plan to vote in the election?
Yes, I do.
Do you have friends who you know that don't plan to go to the polls?
No, not right offhand, I don't.
Long before the study was published, many politicians, especially black politicians, said that they would be severely hurt by a low turnout of black voters. And civil rights leaders say voter disinterest is a luxury the black community cannot afford this year. So, a major Get Out the Vote campaign is underway, especially in the black communities. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
The Franklin, Waste-Away, the other people have found it inconvenient to gear their operations to conclude at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's partly for them, for the public, general public that comes in, the fellow that works from 7 to 3:30, from 8 to 4:30, doesn't have an opportunity except in the afternoon to get his garbage out. And by extending these hours, it not only accommodates the contractors, but also the general public.
Did any dumping along the side of the roads in the city area prompt this action?
Well, not really, but yes, that was considered. People come out and find that the dump is closed, and they get rid of it wherever they can. This wasn't the primary reason, though, but it was one of the factors that was taken into the final decision, yes.
is your secret? What is the reason for this undefeated season?
Well, hard work. We've got a lot of boys on the team who are real dedicated, and they want to win, and they put all they have into it, and so far we've been lucky.
This is a young age to begin football. What do you stress most?
Well, we try to do mostly fundamentals and get the boys prepared to go on to junior high school from here.
Is it really rough coaching the real young ones?
At first it was, but as the season progressed on, it became a little easier. And see, most of the kids, they watch television now. Actually, most of them know what basic plays,
So they try to emulate
That's the problem. That's really the problem. They O.J. Simpson, the rest of them. That's the problem.
Who is their favorite player?
O.J. Simpson.
Most of them want to be running backs then?
Most of them want, you'd be surprised, most of them want a center.
Is that right? Why is that?
Because he was afraid. They're afraid to. They're timid.
Tino, why do they call you Tino?
I don't know.
I hear you hit pretty hard.
No, I don't. The count.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Carter called me last night and thanked me for, of course, helping him, and wanted me to thank the people of Alabama. And, of course, I'm glad to see a deep Southerner elected president. It so happened that his opponent was a very fine, honorable, decent man, which I have said on many, many occasions, but we have not had a deep Southerner president since 1848. And I think that this means that from now on, there's not going to be any geographical bias. And that's one of the things that I wanted to see happen in this country, and one of the things that I started talking about as far back as 1964, when many people felt this would never be the case. And Mr. Carter is from Plains, Georgia, a very short distance from Montgomery, Alabama, and was elected last night, and I think that's a tribute to this great region of the United States. I think Washington's attitude toward the South will be such that they now recognize that we are part of the Union and that we are in the United States and we're not supposed to be treated as a colony, and that here in our own part of the country we have better race relations, for instance, than exist anywhere in the United States, for which I am thankful and grateful, and that we have a viable, vibrant region economically, agriculturally, and industrially, and that we don't need folks to oversee everything that we do here because we are fair-minded and good people.
I'm very appreciative of the tremendous support we've gotten in the 2nd District. We started out a little slow according to television, but as it turned out, we wound up about 61% of the vote, which is darn good in any race. So I think it goes to show that you just can't buy a seat down here, because my opponent spent over $100,000 by most every estimate.
Well, I'm real pleased to have been a winner. I think obviously the people of Montgomery County have expressed a strong dislike for the sales tax, and I think it's going to take some reassessment on that. But I personally am very pleased to have won.
Will you make an effort to repeal the sales tax, the recently imposed one?
Well, as you know, George, that's on us for 2 years. But however, I understand there's a move on to, they put it on us and they can take it off. And I understand there's a move on now for them to take it off this coming Monday and leave us with it. I'm opposed to that 1-cent sales tax, and if I have, my vote is to get it off of there.
The mood of some of Alabama's Republicans will be set here, where party candidates and party workers will glue themselves to TV sets waiting for the outcome of the election. Pre-election polls and predictions indicated the Republican national ticket will do well in Montgomery County. Independent polls give President Ford a 2-to-1 edge over Jimmy Carter, with about 10% of that vote undecided. Republicans say they expect to do very well in areas south of Montgomery on the national scale, and they're optimistic about the rest of the sections of the state. We'll be here throughout the evening as the political drama unfolds. We'll be talking to the Republican candidates, winners and losers, and we'll bring you the color of the election watch party. Right now it remains rather quiet until more of a trend is set and more party workers arrive here at the Downtowner. We'll watch the action from here and bring you all the exciting drama as it unfolds. This is George Mitchell reporting live from Republican headquarters, downtown Montgomery.
Here at the Democratic Watch headquarters, not many people are here yet. As a matter of fact, there's only 2 or 3. But just under 2 million people are registered voters. They live here in Alabama, and historically they have been Democrats and have voted that way in most elections. Democratic Party leaders are waiting to see if a coalition of blacks and whites, especially those from the lower income black bracket, will vote for Jimmy Carter of Georgia. Carter started his run in 1974, and tonight's results in the presidential elections will be the true test of Carter's efforts. Black leaders have been concerned that young blacks may stay home and not go out and vote today. Several pollsters have indicated that blacks between the ages of 18 and 30 would not show up at the polls today. With us is Joel Reed, who is chairman of the Alabama Democratic Conference. He can be said to be an expert on black political activities in the state. Why are blacks so important in the victory for Jimmy Carter here in Alabama?
Well, I think really it's because the strength that President Ford has with whites, and of course that right now whites are pretty much evenly divided, and I think that the black vote can carry the state for Governor Carter and the Democratic ticket. I think that the question of young blacks staying away from the polls, I think that young blacks would not stay at home disproportionate to whites. I think that by and large we all know that the older folks are more they vote. So I think that we'll have a big turnout, and I'm confident beyond doubt that Governor Carter will carry the state of Alabama.
Didn't you have somewhat of a concentrated get-out-the-vote campaign in the black communities here in the state?
Yes, in fact, there were a lot of people who worked very, very hard to do this. I think that, for example, Frank Bray of the Montgomery County Democratic Conference worked very hard. Alvin Holmes, men like Al Dixon, Luke Childers, a lot of people just worked real hard. Della Bryant, just numerous folks who worked hard to get the vote out, and some names I didn't call, Ms. Matty Carr and Johnny Carr, all those people worked real hard to do it, and I think they're going to make the difference in carrying Montgomery County for Governor Carter. In fact, all our local black chapters working together, our local leaders, men like Fred Gray of Tuskegee, just numerous folk, David Hood of Birmingham, all these people have worked real hard to get a big vote out, and I think that we will be successful in carrying the state of Alabama for Governor Carter.
Thank you very much. Joel Reed, who is chairman of the Alabama Democratic Conference, the black political arm of the Democratic Party in Alabama. This is Norman Lumpkin at the Democratic Election Watch Headquarters at the downtown Holiday Inn here in Montgomery. There are a lot of happy people here at the Democratic Watch tonight. We have here with us Earl Pippin, who is chairman of the Montgomery Democratic Party. Mr. Pippin, could you explain the trend so far here?
Well, Norman, it's my opinion that the people of Montgomery County are very upset by the fact that Montgomery has the highest goods and services taxes of any city in the United States, and they responded to that today by their overwhelming majority of the vote that they gave to the county commissioners. Unfortunately, Richard Tarantino, who was one of the candidates of the three, was ill and unable to campaign to work during the campaign, but otherwise it had been a clean sweep.
Have you had any indication from other areas of Alabama as to how the vote is going?
We have, in fact, and we're delighted with the results that have been coming into the headquarters here. Bo Talbot seems to be in the lead over the state. Juanita McDaniel is leading by an overwhelming majority, and in the statewide races, and we're very pleased and excited about that.
NBC has projected Jimmy Carter as a winner here in Alabama. What do you have to say with that briefly?
Well, the weather was in our favor today, and the fact that the great majority of people throughout the United States turned out en masse indicated that they're tired of unemployment and inflation and those issues which Carter dealt with throughout the campaign, and we're pleased with the fact that he's leading right now.
Thank you very much. This is Norman Lumpkin live from the Democratic Party Watch here in the Montgomery Midtown Holiday Inn.
Enthusiasm here at the Republican headquarters could be at a greater level. However, it hasn't hit rock bottom. We do have two of the Republican winners in state races and local races today. First, Bill Joseph. Bill?
Well, I'm real pleased to have been a winner. I think obviously the people of Montgomery County have expressed a strong dislike for the sales tax, and I think it's going to take some reassessment on that. But I personally am very pleased to have won.
Winner in the 2nd District to his 7th term as Congress is William Dickinson. Congressman, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very appreciative of the tremendous support we've gotten in the 2nd District. We started out a little slow according to television, but as it turned out, we wound up about 61% of the vote, which is darn good in any race. So I think it goes to show that you just can't buy a seat down here, because my opponent spent over $100,000 by most every estimate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
George Mitchell, WSFA TV News at Republican headquarters, reporting live.
Here at the Democratic political watch. Rod Frazier, who is chairman of the Carter campaign in Montgomery County, says that he never expected to carry Montgomery County like he did. Could you explain that to us?
Well, we looked very good going in when Rosalind Carter came in about 6 weeks ago. We made a fast start, but as the polls started to go against Governor Carter nationally, we felt the pressure on us here, and I'd have settled for a one-vote win at 5 o'clock this afternoon, Norman.
Are you pleased so far with what has happened?
We're thrilled, and we've got some wonderful people who've worked their hearts out in this thing. Carolyn Clark, Bob Getty, Patsy Mills, a great young comer in the black community here. Luke Childry did a fine job. Tom Wright worked hard. We had a lot of people that just hung in this thing, and I think that helped us to bring it on through.
Thank you very much, Raj Frazier, who is a Montgomery County chairman for the Carter campaign. This is Norman Lumpkin live from Democratic headquarters at the Midtown Holiday Inn.
Thank you, Norman.
The Republicans here are waiting for a more definite trend in tonight's presidential election. To assess the situation as he sees it now is Neil Acker, who is the chairman for the 2nd District Republican Committee. Mr. Acker, how do you see the situation right now? You've been following it pretty closely on television.
George, first let me say that we were very disappointed with the results in Alabama. I know a lot of people worked very hard for President Ford in Alabama, and we appreciate all the effort that went into it. I think nationwide that we're still very much in the ball game. I was very impressed with the most recent figures on Texas, which shows it virtually even. I think we still have a chance there, and I think the western states are going to decide it. We're very close in a lot of the northeastern states, and I'm very cautiously optimistic at this point.
What kind of feeling are you getting from other Republicans here this evening?
I think it's pretty much the same feeling. Everybody was pretty dejected early in the evening when the southern states started coming in, but I think everybody's beginning to feel now that we have a chance, and we feel like it's going to be a real horse race.
It seemed like something just happened to bring the cheers up from your fellow Republicans.
Right. We've had some good things to cheer about. Bill Dickinson's re-election was very encouraging. Bill Joseph's re-election to the county commission. But we think things are going pretty well so far, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed.
Great. Thank you very much. This is George Mitchell reporting live from the Republican headquarters in downtown Montgomery.
Bob Lewis Odom is the state coordinator for the Carter campaign, and we asked him for an assessment of the Carter victory here in Alabama.
Well, of course, I think Governor Wallace's leadership played a large part in it. It made it possible, though, for many other people to go to work. I was pleased with the tremendous outpouring of votes we had all over Alabama in the urban areas for Governor Carter. Doris Crenshaw, who worked very closely with the black community, helped turn out the vote. Tom Guy on our staff. People in Birmingham, Mobile, Montgomery, and in all the counties made it possible for what appears to be about a 55% victory in Alabama.
How would he have done without Wallace's endorsement?
Well, of course, I don't know. I just know this. We won, and I think we're going to win nationwide. I think that we're going to carry the solid
Thank you very much, Mr.
Right.
Odom. This is Norman Lumpkin live from the Democratic headquarters at the Midtown Holiday Inn.
There's not a great deal of joy here in the Republican camp. In fact, there are not too many Republicans left here this evening as the crowd dwindles away by the minute. Two winning Republicans tonight have already said that they don't expect President Ford to pull it out. However, we do have one Republican with us, Circuit Judge Perry Hooper, who is the Republican National Committee man, and he doesn't feel that way. Do you, Judge?
Well, I'll have to admit that things don't look quite that bright, but I've seen ball games won in the fourth quarter. This ball game's not over. And I never have been really a great loser. I find a happy loser and I find a loser. But I'd rather wait till the ball game's over with. I'd rather wait until all the votes are counted. I think this is a serious matter. I know how to lose. I've won, I've lost, and I think we've got a lot of western states coming in yet. And I'd prefer to wait. You know, remember a guy that thought he won one time by the name of Dewey, and at that time I think I voted for Strom Thurmond. But Dewey thought he had won, and Harry Truman woke up the next morning and the paper showed he had won. So
I think it would be foolish at this point to concede anything. You know, that's the way the game is played, and I think we should wait till the votes are all counted in, and that's the way I'm going to be, and so I'm not going to concede anything because a lot of votes that haven't been counted yet, you know.
Well, the Republicans were pretty disappointed in the showing that you made in the state today.
Well, I am disappointed. I feel like this, and I think the other states show it, that Jimmy Carter is from the South, and I can understand people supporting a man from the South. I didn't support him. I think I was right. I'm not going to change that position. I think that a lot of things that Mr. Carter or Governor Carter, and if he wins, it'll be President Carter, will have to show whether or not he is a man. Just because Carter won in the state of Alabama, just because Ford lost in the state of Alabama, does not mean that necessarily that Carter is right, nor that Ford is wrong. It just means that that's the way the ball game is played, and I think only time will tell and history will tell is which is right and which is wrong. And I've taken a position, and I started, I think, a long time ago. I guess that's why I'm a Republican. I'm the only Republican circuit judge in the state. And I just somehow prefer to be a Republican because it seems to be right. Jerry Ford seems to be right. And but I will say this, that the ball game's over, and as far as Alabama is concerned, Ms. Carter's won, and I congratulate those that won for him. But as far as a big ball game, as far as the United States is concerned, we'll have to wait and see. And we're going to all join in, whatever the outcome is. But I'm not going to give in until the race is over.
Thank you very much, Judge. Republicans are still looking at Texas and the West Coast, anticipating that will probably turn the tide. This is George Mitchell reporting live from the Republican headquarters in downtown Montgomery.
Well, Bob, there's an air of subdued jubilation here as Carter rolls up victories in state after state. Nobody will really commit themselves at this point, but we are interested in the minority situation across the country as well as in Alabama. Blacks have played an important part in Carter's victories all around the country, and especially here in Alabama. Gary Cooper is state representative from Mobile, and what is happening in Mobile, Representative Cooper?
When I left Mobile today about 12:30 and I visited the polls in the black community, we had as many people vote as normally votes in an entire day. And I think that should Governor Carter be successful in this campaign, that should be a signal to our nation that the minority vote means a great deal now, and it will mean more and more in the future. And when the pie is sliced, that we will start getting a bigger part of it.
Speaking of this pie, Mr. Gray, could you tell me what happened to get the blacks out to the polls in such large numbers today?
We have worked for the last couple of months, and I want to particularly thank Ms. Crenshaw. Doris Crenshaw has worked, and we've gone all over the state and almost every county. We have written letters, we've made phone calls, and we feel it was very important that black people get out. And we want to say that the blacks have voted in Alabama. I think we have certainly produced, and I think this could be really the second Montgomery bus boycott as far as the movement is concerned, because we have proved, the blacks in this state, that we have certainly come out and we have voted, and we have helped to carry this state for Jimmy Carter. And I think if we can do it in this election, we'll be able to do it in all other elections to come.
10 years ago, would you have said that George Wallace and Fred Gray and Joe Reed and Gary Cooper would have supported the same man?
I think politics certainly makes strange bedfellows.
Why did this happen?
It happened because we saw in Jimmy Carter something that this country needed, to the extent that we were willing to sacrifice our time, our effort, and everything and put it on the line. And I think that's what people across this nation has done, and I believe we're going to be victorious tonight.
Joe Reed is here with us also. Mr. Reed, could you tell me how this coalition came about of George Wallace and the Alabama Democratic Conference, who fought so bitterly for so many years?
We had a common enemy in Jerry Ford. We had a common need in Jimmy Carter. And I think that black folks working together from Foley to Florence, from Andalusia to Athens, people working like Doris Crenshaw, people like Ms. Boyd, and many people I called earlier tonight working together, Fred Gray, the Cooper brothers, people all over this state working together, that made the difference.
Thank you very much. That was the Minority Point of View. This is Norman Lumpkin live from Democratic headquarters. In Montgomery County, the Democrats had a 2-to-1 victory. They had 3 people running in county-wide races. 2 of their candidates won, and the other one was defeated. The chairman of the Montgomery County Democratic Party, Earl Pippin, is here with us. And will you assess your victories and your defeat here in Montgomery County?
Well, Norman, it's a great victory is indicative of the crowd that's gathered here and the excitement that surrounds them at the moment. We lost 1 race and won 2. I think that the people of Montgomery were incensed by the fact that Montgomery County has the highest goods and services taxes of any city in the United States, and they demonstrated that today by the casting of their ballots for Mac McKinney and Nancy Cox to serve on the county commission.
In the Cahey-Dickinson race, Miss Cahey was defeated. Do you have any idea as to what happened in that race? Was he just unbeatable in the beginning, or did she reach a low point during her campaign?
Well, of course, I think that the timing for Cahey campaign was very well planned. It kept going uphill all the time. It just goes to show the awesome power of an incumbent who's been in office for 6 years.
Thank you very much, Earl Pippin, chairman of the Montgomery Democratic Party. This is Norman Lumpkin live from the Democratic headquarters.
Of course, I deal with what we call the insured unemployment rate. That's the rate of people who are covered by unemployment compensation. And that, the latest week, was 4%, 3.9 the week before. Generally, the total unemployment rate generally runs a little less in Alabama, a little less than 2% more than the insured unemployment rate. But with the decline in that rate, we triggered out of one of the federal emergency programs, federal supplemental benefits. We are now in a phase-out position that goes on from 13 weeks following October 30. So it will end, under the present conditions, it'll end January 29 of next year. Now, we do expect, however, that insured unemployment rate in January, for probably the first full week in January, is going to get back up to 5% and over. If it gets to 5%, we trigger back in, but not for very long, because the entire program, regardless of what the insured unemployment rate is, it will end March 31 of next year. In this particular program, we are paying out right at a little bit over $300,000 a week.
I unlock the key. I dial alert twice. Now wait a minute. After a minute, I dial stop twice. Wait another minute. I dial take cover twice. Wait another minute and dial stop twice, and then test is over. The reason for doing everything in duplicate is a safety device. In case you should make a mistake, you'd have to do it twice, which would be very hard to do, to make a mistake like that. And then you turn the key back off. and your test is complete. You log it in your journal and your test is complete.
Anything you mean? Well, I would think it'd be interesting to do this encoder we use about it. We have had the malfunction of one siren in the last 2 months. It's up at the old 5 Points fire station. That is now under repair. The motor is being repaired. One of the motors. It has 2 motors on each one of these big sirens. And one of them was burnt out and having to be repaired. We hope to have it back in operation in the next few weeks. But other than that, they have been very successful and very dependable. It would sound the steady blast, and it would run for 3 minutes then, and 30 seconds off. And then another 3 minutes of the steady blast. It would mean a tornado is expected to strike the city of Montgomery, as we have been advised by the National Weather Service at Danley Field.
The Harris case has raised enough questions that it has drawn national attention. Today, the arguments were heard before the Alabama Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court of Alabama is now in session. Sit down.
We argue that that violates the Due Process Clause, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th.
The statute is just mandatory no matter what color you are, isn't it?
Well, but, Your Honor, even though we do not believe that in a trial where the primary and only and sole issues are the question of guilt or innocence, that in that trial proceeding, that the questions of aggravation and mitigation can adequately be presented.
And they certainly what you're saying is that you don't, your contention is that you don't believe that any statute can be so narrowly drawn so as to meet the constitutional muster under the recent Supreme Court death cases, unless it contains some circumstances such as the Georgia statute and the other statutes contain, so that both a trial jury, a trial judge, and an appellate court on review have guidelines in order to meet the cases.
Yes, sir.
Test
Yes,
the
sir.
cases. That's what you're saying.
Yes, sir. In Texas and in Georgia and Louisiana, there were bifurcated procedures. The Supreme Court did not categorically state you have to have bifurcated procedures.
And you're not saying that here today.
We are saying that, Your
You are
Honor.
saying that.
We say that there must be those bifurcated procedures to adequately allow a defendant to present those mitigating circumstances to guide the jury, the sentencing jury, in the determination of death.
If, in fact, posing a hypothetical, if the court would remand, as some of the justices hypothecated earlier, for a hearing just on the basis of sentencing, what they would be posing to the jury would be a situation where they had already determined guilt, and where now they must choose between a life or death sentence. If they choose the other alternative, life, they've in effect chosen not to punish the man at all. We contend that would do nothing more than vitiate the determination of guilt to start with. So therefore, the mandatory aspects of the statute are not brought about by restrictions on the jury.
Well, isn't that inconsistent with your argument previously that there's nothing more you can do to this man?
Certainly not, Your Honor.
Aren't the two a little inconsistent?
No, Your Honor, I would feel that they're not. The fact that you can't, the situation the legislature has posed to juries, the guidance that they have given them under 319 is that if you determine him to be guilty, you have to punish him. You simply have to punish him. The implicit finding of a determination of guilt is some form of punishment. The only form of punishment allowable under 319 is death. The only form of punishment that you could possibly give a life-term prisoner is death.
Some minor point's been made, or I read it somewhere, that the statutory, in other words, this man was in the penitentiary with a life sentence. He could have been possibly paroled.
Yes, Your
Or
Honor.
in parole, could have, had they seen fit.
But you can't then say that he had the maximum punishment short of death, could you?
Yes, Your Honor, we feel very definitely you
Think
can.
you could. You don't make any point of the fact that the statutory scheme in Alabama could have had one more step in punishments, namely life imprisonment with possibility of parole. The next level, life imprisonment, no parole, then death. Does that worry you at all?
Not at all, Your Honor. We would have, to make that argument, we would have to assume that parole is constitutionally required, and we're not prepared to make that assumption.
There are several states that are waiting for a decision in the courts from Alabama, Utah in particular. Clark Edwards, WSFA TV News, the Alabama Supreme Court.
Recovered by Mississippi College. Fumble. Mississippi College recovers.
To the best of my ability. So help me God. God, let me congratulate you.
Thank you, Judge.
I hope I'll have this pleasure.
Thank you. So help me God. I lift you up.
Execute this.
I, Nancy Priester Cox,
I, Nancy Priester Cox,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I
Do solemnly swear
will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United
of this commission, my predecessor, Mr. Joseph, on an outstanding job here, and I hope to uphold the standards that my predecessors have set.
And he is not specifically appointed by the county commission, but is working as a county position for the county on a
Under contract.
I have a great deal to work toward and to do on behalf of other women who have come this way. Thank you so very much.
Do you think the repeal of the half-cent sales tax is going to put you in a bind?
Here again, I need very much to look at this budget, and I plan to do this afternoon to see just where we stand and to see what perhaps might need to be done, George.
You anticipate some money problems since the repeal of the half-cent tax?
Yes, you realize that just taking office is extremely hard. I've got to find out more about the finances and the expenditures, and when I've completely studied that, I intend to take it real slow and not do anything overt action right off the bat, and just see where everything is before you go to take any action, or recommend any action.
Do you accept the chairmanship of the commission with a great deal of enthusiasm? Do you have any reluctance at all?
Well, deep down, I'm a little bit apprehensive, but however, I've never backed up from anything, and I'm going to do the best job that I know how.
George, I have not had an opportunity to see the bill as yet, so that I'm not certain of the exact provisions of it. We'll certainly get a copy and study it. We, as presidents, most of us, have opposed the establishment of a Board of Regents. We have been in favor of strengthening the Alabama Commission on Higher Education so that it can prevent the activation of new programs and new campuses in the state. And I don't think that we will have any position other than continuing support for that and opposition to a Board of Regents. We feel that the overall authoritative board, with its large staff and the amount of money that would be required to operate it, is not in the best interest of Alabama higher education at the present time.
We highly favor the Commission on Higher Education having enough teeth and authority to control completely the expansion of educational institutions, to have complete advisory authority insofar as financing education is concerned, working out the formulas and taking the amount of money available for higher education and allocating it on a fair basis to all the institutions of higher learning in the state.
I would be opposed to having a central board of regents for the state of Alabama. I believe that there are other steps that should be taken in an attempt to see if everyone can be accountable. And specifically, I would like to see the Commission on Higher Education given a more central role and a more authoritative role in higher education in Alabama.